Blackwood Mansion, an AI-generated horror story. Foreword. This tale has been generated by an advanced artificial intelligence model as part of a research project exploring AI's creative writing abilities. Created in January 2023, future readers may be intrigued by the evolution of the topic when revisiting the story in a few years' time. The model was tasked with crafting a classic Gothic horror story in the writing style of H.P. Lovecraft and Robert W. Chambers. The plot was entirely imagined by the AI, though in its current state, the story was generated chapter by chapter and required human revision in cases where the output lacked coherence or strayed from the previous chapters. As such, the AI model serves as the primary author, with a human editor who reviewed the story and provided feedback to improve its output. It should be noted that there may be still some minor plot holes or inaccuracies present within the narrative that have been deliberately left untouched by the editor. These do not significantly impede the progression of the story and serve as a testament to the ongoing challenges and current limitations of AI-generated creative writing. The voice you hear is also generated by text-to-voice AI models. Additionally, the visual representation was generated by text-to-image models. Further details on the models utilized can be found in the description section. To support further advancements in AI-generated storytelling, please consider giving this video a like and subscribe to the channel. We hope you enjoy the following story. Chapter 1. The Inheritance. The fog was thick and heavy as Emma Blackwood stepped out of the carriage and looked up at the Blackwood mansion. The grand, Gothic structure loomed over her, its turrets and spires piercing the mist like jagged claws. The stone was a dull gray, moss and ivy creeping up its sides, and the windows were dark and empty. The air was damp and chilly, and Emma could taste the hint of rotting leaves and moss on her tongue. She shivered, pulling her cloak tighter around her shoulders as she climbed the steps to the front door. Emma was a young woman, with long auburn hair that cascaded down her shoulders in loose curls. She had bright green eyes that shone like emeralds in the dim light. Her features were delicate and refined, and she stood tall and proud, with a sense of determination in her posture. She wore a long, dark green dress that hugged her curves, and a black cloak that hung from her shoulders. Her gloves were black, and her boots were made of fine leather. Emma had a confident and determined radiance, with a hint of vulnerability, reflecting her uncertainty about her new role as the heir of the mansion. As she approached the front door, Emma couldn't help but feel a sense of apprehension. She had received a letter from a distant relative, informing her that she had inherited the Blackwood mansion. Emma had never even heard of this relative before, and she couldn't understand why she had been chosen to inherit the mansion. But she was determined to uncover the truth, and she knew that the mansion held the key to her family's past. Emma reached for the door knocker, a heavy brass lion's head that hung from the door. She knocked 3 times, the sound echoing through the fog. After a moment, the door creaked open, revealing a tall, thin man in a black suit. He looked at her with cold, emotionless eyes, and Emma felt a shiver run down her spine. He had an aura of eerie detachment, and Emma couldn't shake the feeling that something was off about him. "Welcome to Blackwood Mansion, Miss Blackwood," the man said, his voice low and monotone. "I'm Mr. Jenkins, the caretaker of the mansion. I will show you to your rooms." Emma nodded, and Mr. Jenkins led her inside. As she entered the mansion, Emma couldn't help but feel a sense of unease. The foyer was grand and imposing, with a high ceiling and a sweeping staircase. But it was also dark and cold. The wallpaper was peeling, and the chandelier that hung above her was missing several crystals. Emma could feel the chill seeping into her bones as she followed Mr. Jenkins deeper into the mansion. As they walked, Emma couldn't help but notice the eerie silence that hung in the air. The mansion seemed to be completely empty, and there was no sound except for the soft echo of their footsteps. Emma could smell the musty scent of damp and decay, and she could see cobwebs and dust covering the furniture. It was as if the mansion had been abandoned for years. Mr. Jenkins led Emma up the grand staircase and down a long, dimly lit hallway. He stopped in front of a door and gestured for Emma to enter. She hesitated for a moment, her hand on the doorknob. She couldn't shake the feeling that something was off about Mr. Jenkins, and she couldn't help but wonder what secrets the mansion held. Emma pushed open the door and stepped into her bedroom. It was a large, elegant room with a four-poster bed, a fireplace, and a window that looked out onto the foggy grounds. But like the rest of the mansion, it was also dark and cold. Emma could see the outlines of furniture covered in white sheets, and she could smell the musty scent of damp and decay. She shivered, pulling her cloak tighter around her shoulders as she walked to the window. As she looked out at the foggy grounds, Emma couldn't help but feel a sense of unease. She had inherited a mansion that seemed to be haunted by secrets and darkness. She knew that she had to uncover the truth about her family and the mansion, but she couldn't shake the feeling that she was in over her head. Emma knew that the road ahead would be long and treacherous, but she was determined to uncover the secrets of the Blackwood mansion, no matter the cost. Chapter 2. The Locket. Emma couldn't sleep that night, her mind racing with thoughts of the Blackwood mansion and its secrets. She tossed and turned in her bed, her eyes scanning the dark, silent room. She couldn't shake the feeling that something was off about the mansion, and she knew that she had to start uncovering its secrets. As the first light of dawn began to filter through the window, Emma got up and dressed. She decided to start her investigation by exploring the grounds of the mansion. She grabbed a lantern and a cloak and made her way downstairs, her footsteps echoing through the silent house. As she stepped outside, Emma was greeted by the thick, misty fog that seemed to be a constant presence at the Blackwood mansion. The air was damp and chilly, and Emma could smell the rotting leaves and moss. She made her way to the gardens, her lantern casting a dim light through the fog. The gardens were overgrown and wild, and Emma could see the outlines of statues and fountains hidden behind the vines. She made her way to the center of the garden, where she found a large stone fountain. The fountain was in the shape of a woman, her arms outstretched and her head thrown back. As she approached the fountain, Emma noticed something glinting in the water. She reached in and pulled out a small golden locket. The locket was intricately detailed, and Emma could see a small engraved picture of a young woman on the front. She opened the locket and found a small folded piece of paper inside. Emma unfolded the paper and read the message written in delicate, spidery script. The truth lies within the Blackwood mansion. Look to the past to find the answers you seek. Emma was intrigued by the message in the locket. She knew that the locket must have belonged to someone who had lived in the Blackwood mansion, and she was determined to find out who that person was. She slipped the locket into her pocket and decided to explore the mansion further. As she made her way back inside, Emma noticed a door that she had not seen before. It was a small, wooden door, located at the end of a long hallway. Emma tried the doorknob, but it was locked. She knew that she had to find a way to open it. She remembered the locket and decided to try using it as a key. She inserted the locket into the lock and turned it. To her surprise, the door clicked open. Emma pushed open the door and stepped inside. The room was small and musty, and she could see webs and dust covering the furniture. But as she looked around, Emma realized that this was not just any room. It was a study. She could see a large wooden desk in the center of the room and bookshelves lining the walls. Emma's heart began to race as she realized that this could be the key to uncovering the secrets of the Blackwood mansion. She walked over to the desk and began to search through the papers and books. She found old letters, documents, and photographs. Emma spent the whole day in the study, going through everything she could find. She discovered that the locket belonged to a young woman named Isabella Blackwood, who was the daughter of the previous owner of the mansion. She had disappeared without a trace, and Emma realized that the message in the locket was a clue left behind by her. Emma was determined to find out what happened to Isabella and uncover the truth about the Blackwood mansion. As the sun set, Emma realized that she had been in the study for hours. She knew that she had to leave, but she promised herself that she would return to the study the next day and continue her investigation. As she left the study, Emma felt a sense of excitement and determination. She knew that she was getting closer to uncovering the secrets of the Blackwood mansion, and she was determined to find out the truth, no matter the cost. As Emma walked back to her room, she couldn't shake the feeling that she was being watched. She turned around to see if there was someone behind her, but the hallway was empty. Emma shrugged it off and went to bed, but she knew that her investigation was far from over. Chapter 3. The Portrait. Emma spent the next few days in the study, going through every document and piece of evidence she could find. She discovered that Isabella Blackwood had been engaged to a man named Jonathan, but the engagement had been called off and Isabella had disappeared shortly after. Emma also found out that the Blackwood family had a dark and twisted past, with rumors of murder and madness. As Emma delved deeper into the investigation, she couldn't shake the feeling that something was off about the Blackwood family. She felt as if someone was watching her and she had a hard time sleeping. Emma decided to take a break and explore the rest of the mansion. As she walked through the halls, Emma noticed a large portrait hanging on the wall. It was a painting of a woman with dark, piercing eyes and a sinister smile. Emma couldn't take her eyes off of the portrait, and she felt a chill run down her spine. She walked closer to the portrait and noticed that the woman in the painting looked familiar. She realized that it was a portrait of Isabella Blackwood, the missing woman she was searching for. Emma couldn't believe what she saw. She knew that Isabella had disappeared, and yet, here she was, staring back at her from the portrait. Emma felt a sense of unease as she looked at the portrait, feeling like Isabella was watching her every move. She knew that she had to find out more about her and what happened to her. She also knew that she had to be prepared, for she knew that the truth about her disappearance would come at a great cost. She remembered the locket and the message inside and decided to visit the locket maker to ask more questions about the locket, Isabella, and the Blackwood family. As Emma walked through the small Victorian town, the streets were bustling with people going about their daily business. The buildings were tall and narrow, with ornate facades and wrought iron balconies. The cobblestone streets were slick with rain, and the smell of damp earth and coal smoke filled the air. Emma passed by shops selling trinkets and sweets, and a group of children playing hopscotch on the pavement. She felt a pang of longing for her own childhood, before the weight of her family's secrets had descended upon her. As she reached the outskirts of the village, the buildings became more sparse, and she found herself walking along a dark and narrow lane. The locket maker's shop was located at the end of the lane, and as she approached, she could see that the windows were dark and the sign over the door was faded. She pushed open the door and stepped inside. The shop was dark and musty, with the smell of old metal and enamel filling the air. Emma walked up to the counter, where the old man sat working on a locket. She asked him, "Do you know anything about the Blackwood family and their relation to Isabella?" The old man looked up at Emma with a guarded expression. "I'm sorry, miss, but I'm not at liberty to speak about the Blackwood family or their affairs. They are a powerful and wealthy family, and I would not want to jeopardize my business by speaking ill of them." Emma persisted. "I understand your concern, but I am searching for the truth about Isabella's disappearance. I believe that the Blackwood family may have had something to do with it. Please, if you know anything, you have to tell me." The old man hesitated before saying, "I understand your urgency, miss, but I must remind you that the Blackwood family is not to be trifled with. They have a long reach and a vengeful nature. I have heard rumors, but I cannot confirm any of them." Emma asked, "Can you tell me more about these rumors?" The old man looked around nervously before saying, "I cannot confirm anything, but I have heard stories of dark practices and deals with dark entities. I have also heard that Isabella was a part of a secret society within the Blackwood family and that she was privy to their dark secrets. But I must warn you, these are just rumors and speculation. I would advise you to be careful when delving deeper into the Blackwood family's affairs. They are not a family to be trifled with." Emma thanked the old man for his warning and left the shop, her mind racing with suspicions. As Emma arrived back at the Blackwood mansion, she couldn't shake off the feeling of unease. The old man's words had left her with more questions than answers, and she knew that she needed to tread carefully. Chapter 4. The Journal. Emma returned to the Blackwood mansion feeling more determined than ever to uncover the truth about Isabella's disappearance. She knew that the answers she sought would not be found in the small village, but within the walls of the Blackwood estate. As she entered the mansion, she was greeted by the familiar musty smell of old books and furniture. She made her way to the study, where she knew the Blackwood family kept their most important documents and records. She searched through the shelves and drawers, but nothing seemed out of the ordinary. She was about to give up when she noticed a small, leather-bound journal hidden in the back of a drawer. As she opened the journal, she felt a chill run down her spine. The journal belonged to Isabella, and it was filled with her thoughts and musings. Emma began to read, and as she did, she felt as if she were getting to know Isabella intimately. She read about Isabella's love for nature, her passion for writing, and her deep sense of loneliness. Emma also read about Isabella's growing fascination with the Blackwood family and their secrets. As she flipped through the pages, she came across a poem written in Isabella's delicate handwriting. "In the shadow of the Blackwood tree, where secrets lurk and mystery, a ritual old, a curse to see, the price of immortality." Emma knew this had to be related to the ritual Isabella had written about earlier in the journal. She read on, and as she did, she felt a sense of dread as she realized the full extent of the Blackwood family's dark secrets. The ritual involved human sacrifice and was said to grant immortality to the Blackwood family members who participated in it. Emma was horrified and couldn't believe that her own family could be capable of such atrocities. But as she read further, she discovered that the ritual had been practiced for generations, and that many members of the Blackwood family had been involved. She read about the sacrifices made, the gruesome rituals performed, and the terrible consequences that followed. Determined to uncover the truth, Emma carefully closed the journal and slipped it back into the drawer. She knew she had to act quickly before anyone else discovered her secret. She made her way to the Blackwood family crypt, located deep in the heart of the mansion. She found the door to the crypt and pushed it open. Inside, she saw the symbols etched into the floor, just as Isabella had described. The symbols were dark and twisted, sending shivers down Emma's spine. She couldn't believe that her own family could be capable of such atrocities. As Emma turned to leave, she heard a noise behind her. She turned to see the old man from the Locket shop standing in the doorway, a look of malice in his eyes. "You should have taken my warning, Miss Blackwood," he said. "Now, you will pay the price for your curiosity." Emma's heart raced as she stared at the old man, fear and confusion clouding her thoughts. She had no idea what he meant by his warning, but she could sense the danger in his words. "What are you talking about?" she managed to stammer out. The old man's lips twisted into a sinister grin. "I told you not to go digging into the past," he said, his voice low and menacing. "But you didn't listen. And now, you've sealed your own fate." Emma's eyes darted around the room, searching for a way out. But the old man blocked the only exit, and she knew she couldn't outrun him. She reached in her pocket, but the old man was too quick. He lunged at her, his hand closing around her throat. Emma fought for her life, kicking and clawing at the old man's grip. But he was too strong, and she felt her consciousness slipping away. Just as she thought it was over, a figure appeared in the doorway, wielding a large candlestick. The old man let out a cry of pain as the candlestick connected with his head, and he crumpled to the ground. Emma's savior was a young man, tall and broad-shouldered, with dark hair and piercing blue eyes. He looked at her with concern, then offered her his hand to help her stand. "Are you all right?" he asked her. Emma nodded, still in shock from the attack. "Who are you?" she asked, her voice trembling. "My name is Henry," the young man said. "I saw what was happening and came to help. Are you sure you're all right? We should get you to a doctor." Emma shook her head, still trying to process what had just happened. I am fine," she said. "But what about him?" She gestured to the old man on the ground. Henry's face grew hard. "He's a monster," he said. "But he won't be hurting anyone else again." Emma felt a chill run down her spine as she looked at the old man's lifeless body. Was this all because of her search for the truth about her family? She looked up at Henry, who was watching her with a mixture of concern and curiosity. "I need to go," she said, her voice barely above a whisper. Henry nodded, understanding the turmoil she must be feeling. "I will help you." Chapter 5. The Crypt. As Emma and Henry walked through the dimly lit crypt, she couldn't shake the feeling of unease that had settled in the pit of her stomach. The musty smell of old stone and the sound of their footsteps echoing off the walls made her feel like they were intruding on something sacred. Henry, on the other hand, seemed completely at ease. As they walked, he explained that he was a distant cousin of the Blackwood family and had always been fascinated by their history. He had been researching the family for years and had come across mention of Isabella, a distant relative who had disappeared without a trace. "I couldn't help but notice your interest in Isabella when you were in the Locket shop," Henry said, glancing over at Emma. "I thought maybe I could help you find out what happened to her." Emma was touched by his offer and grateful for the help. As they continued to explore the crypt, they began to notice small details that had been overlooked before. Carvings on the walls that were hidden in the shadows, and inscriptions on the tombs that were nearly worn away with age. As they reached the far corner of the crypt, Henry stopped in front of a large ornate tomb. The tomb was made of marble, with intricate carvings of angels and cherubs adorning the sides. Emma couldn't believe her eyes as she read the inscription, "Isabella Blackwood." Henry noticed Emma's shocked expression and placed a comforting hand on her shoulder. "I know, it's a surprise. But I have reason to believe that there may be something inside that can help us." With a sense of trepidation, Emma watched as Henry pried open the heavy lid of the tomb. Inside, they were met with a shocking sight. The tomb was empty, with no sign of Isabella's corpse. Emma couldn't understand how this could be possible, but Henry seemed unfazed. "There's a hidden compartment here," Henry said, pointing to a small indentation in the wall of the tomb. "I believe it may contain something important." Emma watched as Henry pried open the compartment to reveal a small, leather-bound scroll. Henry carefully unrolled the parchment, revealing a series of intricate drawings and symbols that were unlike anything Emma had ever seen before. The symbols were in a language she didn't recognize, and were written in a delicate, almost otherworldly script. "It's an ancient Blackwood family ritual," he said, pointing to one of the drawings. "I believe it may hold the key to unlocking the mystery surrounding Isabella's disappearance and the curse that has plagued our family for generations." Emma's heart skipped a beat as she looked over the scroll. Could this be the clue they had been searching for all this time? The discovery of Isabella's empty tomb and the ritual scroll filled them with a renewed sense of hope as they left the crypt, determined to uncover the secret once and for all. Chapter 6. The Unveiling of the Truth. Emma and Henry spent the next few days poring over the ritual scroll, trying to decipher the ancient symbols in writing. The symbols were intricate and detailed, depicting mystical creatures such as dragons, phoenixes, and unicorns, as well as arcane rituals such as blood sacrifices and incantations. They were unlike anything Emma had ever seen before. As they delved deeper into the scroll, they began to uncover the truth about Isabella's disappearance and the curse that had plagued the Blackwood family for generations. According to the scroll, Isabella had been chosen as the sacrifice in a powerful ritual meant to break the curse and restore the family's fortunes. The ritual required a pure sacrifice of a pure-blooded Blackwood family member, Isabella being the chosen one. But something had gone horribly wrong during the ritual and she had disappeared, her body never found. The curse, however, had remained, and the Blackwood family had been plagued by financial ruin, bad luck, and tragedies ever since. Emma and Henry began to notice certain key elements that were missing from the ritual. There were symbols and incantations that had been erased or smudged, making it difficult to determine their true meaning. They realized that someone in the past must have deliberately tampered with the scroll in an attempt to conceal the truth about the ritual and the curse. Emma and Henry were undeterred by this setback. They knew that they had to find a way to complete the ritual in order to break the curse and restore the family's fortunes. They spent many hours researching ancient texts and consulting with experts in the field of mythology and occultism. They were determined to find the missing pieces of the puzzle, no matter what it took. As they continued to study the scroll, Emma and Henry began to notice certain patterns and themes that emerged. They discovered that the ritual required a series of offerings, including blood sacrifices and incantations, in order to appease the ancient spirits and break the curse. They also realized that the ritual had to be performed at a specific time and place, in order to align with the celestial movements and the energies of the earth. With this new information, Emma and Henry were able to piece together the missing parts of the ritual and make sense of the ancient symbols and incantations. They knew that they had to act quickly, as the next suitable alignment of celestial movements would not happen for another year. Chapter 7. The Ritual. The night of the ritual arrived, and Emma and Henry made their way to the crypt where the ritual was to be performed. They were both nervous but determined to see it through. The musty smell of the crypt filled their nostrils as they descended the steps, and the chill in the air made Emma's skin goosebumps. Upon reaching the crypt, Emma and Henry set up the altar and began the ritual. They lit the candles in incense, and began chanting the incantations from the scroll. As they spoke the ancient words, Emma could feel a strange energy building in the air. The flickering light of the candles created a ghostly dance on the stone walls, and the pungent smell of burning incense made it difficult to breathe. As Emma and Henry began the ritual, they spoke in unison, reciting the incantations from the scroll. The words were ancient and foreign, but they spoke them with confidence. The sound of their voices echoed through the crypt, adding to the eerie atmosphere. As they spoke, Emma could hear the sound of drums and chanting in the distance. She couldn't tell if it was real or just in her head. The symbols on the scroll began to glow brighter and brighter until they were almost blinding. The noises howled louder and louder, as if it was trying to drown out their voices. Emma reached for the knife and made a small cut on her palm, letting her blood flow onto the altar. She recited a spell, her voice growing louder and more powerful with each word. As her blood dripped onto the altar, the candles flickered, and the room grew colder. Henry spoke a spell of his own, his voice trembling with fear and awe. Emma could see the symbols on the scroll start to move as if they were alive. The noises howled louder and louder, and Emma could feel it tugging at her, trying to pull her away. The ritual reached its climax, and Emma could feel a powerful force tearing through her body. She felt as if her very soul was being ripped from her body, and she knew that she would not survive. She saw Henry's face twisted in terror as he tried to hold her, but she was dragged into a vortex of light and sound. As the ritual came to an end, Emma saw a bright light, and then everything went black. When she awoke, she found herself in a strange, otherworldly place. The sky was a deep purple color, and the ground was made of a soft white mist. Emma felt a sense of disorientation and a wave of fear wash over her as she realized that she was in a completely unfamiliar place. She looked around and saw Henry, but he too was changed. His eyes were void of any emotion. Emma realized that they had been taken to another realm, and they would never return to the mortal world again. Just as Emma was about to despair, she heard a whispering voice behind her.
"Welcome to this realm,"
the voice said. Turning, she looked into another pair of emotionless eyes. It was Isabella Blackwood. We sincerely appreciate your time in listening to this video. If you found it enjoyable, we kindly request that you consider expressing your support by liking and subscribing to our channel. Your encouragement helps us to continuously improve AI-generated storytelling and create new captivating stories like the one you just experienced. We also welcome your feedback in the comments section. Feel free to suggest the next genre for which we will create a story. You can even suggest plot details that we will pass on to the AI author.